Start with the question. How mad is Trump? I mean, you know him.
He's furious. I mean, I think if you looked at his facial expression leaving, let's put it this way. I don't think Melania's going to have a great Mother's Day. He'll be kicking walls all weekend because he really saw, I think, how really in a dangerous position he's in now. The times that I've known Donald Trump, whether we were fighting or whether he was trying to act like he was a Democrat, he's delusional. And the look I saw in his face today was all of a sudden the delusions are kind of melting, and he realized this could be real trouble. I think he'll be putting a lot of pressure on those lawyers. He'll be coming up with a different theory every second that they ought to try. It's going to be a very busy weekend for Donald Trump because he is, I think, a man sinking, and he's seeing it, and he's going to try every angle he can between now and when they reconvene next week.
I feel like it's a smear to Shakespeare to describe Cohen versus Trump as Shakespearean, but in this element, it feels like it might be. What Trump will want to do and say about Cohen could put Trump where Michael Cohen spent time, in prison. These two men, so interconnected. Cohen took care of Trump's dirtiest deeds. He did it with seeming enthusiasm for a while. He and Weisselberg, sort of two of the, one we know is a witness that's a coming attraction. The other is a giant question mark. Two of the, not the only men, but two men who've gone to prison for Donald Trump.
Imagine your frenemy, right? Most folks got one of those, but just take it to the next level of, the White House on the line, going to prison on the line, one man already having served time in prison for the crimes that he pled guilty to committing on behalf of that other friend / now enemy. I mean, that's what's on the line here. And when Donald Trump is literally going inside of the courthouse here today, he sees a TikTok last night from Michael Cohen that includes Michael Cohen wearing a shirt of Donald Trump behind bars, which led to an irate Donald Trump and an attorney, Todd Blanche, today saying that Michael Cohen should be directed to not speak about this trial at all because Donald Trump currently has the gag order placed on top of him. He's already violated it 10 times, a couple of those for attacking Michael Cohen. But this is a moment here where he wants to go out and publicly defend himself. And this is the same argument we saw at the end of court yesterday, but about Stormy Daniels. Todd Blanche making the case for Donald Trump that Donald Trump should be able to attack her because she's a witness that is now off the stand. But as Stormy Daniels tweeted last night, quote, real men respond to testimony by being sworn in and taking the stand in court. Oh, wait, never mind. Michael Cohen could have that response back in return. That is an outstanding question. Would Donald Trump actually take that opportunity to go on the attack against Michael Cohen in the place where right now he would legally be able to do that, which is in the courtroom?
What's so interesting to me about Stormy Daniels
video with a shirt of Donald Trump behind bars that Donald Trump's lawyers were in court complaining about today, and there was this just remarkable exchange about it. And even the government lawyer, Joshua Steinglass, caught up and he said, we can't control the witnesses. We don't have the power to do it. And the judge actually said to him, you should tell them, you need to talk to them. He understands that he can't control them, but the message has got to go out. Enough's enough. Because Donald Trump, he wants to respond in a political format. He's having to realize right now the constraints of this courtroom, but it's very frustrating, I think, particularly when he's seeing what Michael Cohen is doing time and time again. After Michael Cohen saying he's not going to do it, he continues to poke the bear. And this is what's coming into court on Monday. This is what, it's going to be interesting because I saw Michael Cohen in the civil setting, and I actually thought, in most respects, he was a very good witness. But on Monday, what goes to the heart of this is what he's going to be testifying about. This is the hush money payment that he paid. He has done time for this, and I think it's just a whole new ballgame on Monday as to how this unfolds.
But we should not forget that Michael Cohen, despite all of the baggage, is really emotionally very, very connected to seeing some justice here as he sees it. And you may remember he called me and I had prayer with him before he went to jail. This man went to jail in part on these charges.
No, Reverend, I agree with you, but I think if
Inside Donald Trump's prison cell, the surroundings are like any other small, enclosed space. The walls are gray concrete, and a narrow cot with a thin mattress is the only piece of furniture. A tiny metal sink and toilet combo sit in one corner, while a small barred window allows a sliver of natural light to filter in. The sound of clanking bars echoes through the air as guards patrol the hallway outside.
What is...
President Trump is 76 years old. He will die in federal prison.
Trump spends his days pacing the limited floor space. The once powerful man now finds himself in a place of confinement.
Nothing had anything to do with Donald Trump. Nothing. All of these text messages are reading them ad nauseum. That did. Dylan Howard said this, and Gina Rodriguez said that, and Daily Mail was going to pay $200. And what are you going to do? And then they bring in these paralegals from the DA's office in Manhattan. They said, well, you know, Donald Trump said this on Twitter, and at that time this was happening. I mean, the jury is like yawning, and they're sitting there. They don't know what's going on either. They don't know what the crime is.
Before we continue with Ingraham, I could use Google, but I'll rely on you. Can somebody in the comment section tell me what shrew means? Does it apply to Melania Trump? Because she's been pretty busy.
Looking at our first lady like that and having that image.
The New York Post calls it the Oval Office and menage a Trump.
Oh, yeah.
A Trump spokesman is also defending the racy photos.
Their celebration of the human body is art.
Now, at various points in her 2 days on the stand and in other exhibits entered into evidence, Daniels comes across as not only an angry shrew, but an angry shrew who's also an extortionist.
This case is attracting all of these huge, big legal experts, all of those who know so much about the law you could fit it all onto the prick of a pin and still have 99% of circumference space left. Here's Winebox.
Tell you, Laura, this woman, there's something off about her. There really is. So everything about this was a lie. And I'll tell you what was most interesting, too. Was that she started off by saying, I was in 200 porn films and I also directed and acted in another 150. And you're saying to yourself, this is a star witness?
Where exactly is Rick Scott in charge? Where is he the big boss? Because wherever it was, clearly didn't matter today because he rocked up to court to whinge and whine. Why was he there? Anybody? Comment section, please? Because I'm clueless.
No.
Did it have anything to do with the gag order, you being here today?
No, I'm fed up. I watched what happened to me and my company. I've watched what's happened. I've talked to business.
Apologies for interrupting Dick Scott mid-sentence, but he did mention something there, and I think, oh, we should just go back in history. Then we'll go back to the garbage he was talking about.
It is one of the biggest criminal investigations of an American corporation ever.
We're executing a search warrant.
In the past few months, hundreds of federal agents have raided at least 70 of Columbia's hospitals and offices in 7 states.
Rick Scott promised explosive growth to shareholders, but to insiders, Rick Scott could be ruthless.
They seem to care more about profits than medicine.
Good old-fashioned fraud, lying for money. Over the last decade, Columbia has made its stockholders and executives rich.
The company, she did the Medicare program, and they knew what they were doing.
Regularly filing false Medicare reports and overcharging the government.
Charging the government for everything from Kentucky Derby tickets to country club memberships.
False claims submitted to the government year after year over the course of hundreds of hospitals. Their promotions depended on it. Their bonuses depended on it.
For-profit hospital chain HCA, formerly called Columbia HCA, will plead guilty to criminal conduct.
$745 million to settle charges of fraud in Medicare billing.
Rick Scott and 5 other top corporate executives have resigned. And federal investigators told ABC News today that Scott is now considered a prime target of the investigation. Scott could not be reached for comment.
People over the years, what's happened to them when you have political persecution. And now what I've watched what President Trump has done with all these cases. This is just simply, they don't want this guy on the ballot. I mean,
I'm no medical person, but I do make a diagnosis with Lara Trump. She has hearing problems. Nepo Trump never hears herself.
Barack Obama, Joe Biden, now Hillary Clinton saying something to the effect of if Trump loses, he will not accept the results. Is that coordinated?
I think, isn't it all coordinated? Isn't all of this stuff coming from one place? It's pretty obvious that Donald Trump does accept election results, even despite the fact that it was a very questionable election in 2020 because Joe Biden is unfortunately sitting in the Oval Office today. What Donald
And she says something which for me is this goes to the root of all of it. Carrie Lake, Marjorie Taylor Greene, whichever person you want to mention, it's kind of like, I win, but only if I win by my way. If you lose, I win. If you lose, something's wrong. There's no possible way that you can lose. I have to win. Basically, who is she at the end of the day to turn around and say, of course he's going to accept the result as long as he wins? It's just, this is not democracy, and there's no pushback ever. Of course, Lara Trump doesn't actually go to anywhere where she's going to be challenged. It's not like somebody's suddenly going to say, spell your name, Lara, FOS.
Yes, if I feel like this is a fair election, if I feel like you guys didn't interfere in any way, like they are obviously trying to do with all these bogus cases against him, then no problem. I'm happy to accept the results of the election.
I never know whether it's projection or dumbness or both. You remember Katie Britt? She of the soft voice of the State of the Union. She's back, and do you know why? There is a reason why people who watch Fox have to vote for Trump. You're going to be a bit surprised.
And truly, Sean, this is why we need President Trump back in the White House. He will bring common sense. He understands the values this nation was built on, and he knows that he will not bend to the woke mob. He will let our children be children. He will let them grow and thrive and learn to stand for the flag, to love this
God
country,
bless you,
and to be who they
and may
are.
God continue.
Go woke, go broke.
Yeah, look, I'm voting for Joe Biden because I want to beat Donald Trump, right? Not voting for somebody or writing somebody else's name in does not do what we need to get done, and that's to beat Donald Trump. And yes, it's intense. I mean, just, go look at my social media. Go look at the names that they call my family. Go, have the conversations around my kitchen table with folks being vile and visceral around. I mean, look, this feels un-American for somebody to attack somebody just because of who they're going to vote for. I should never do that as a Republican. Somebody should never do that as a Democrat. But that's the spot we're in. Donald Trump has confused and hijacked this Republican Party, or at least an element of it.
A new Quinnipiac poll shows the president is now up 6 points in Wisconsin, which...
There are two things. There's a scenario of mishearing something, and then there's AI. Actually, there's a third thing where somebody straight up calls, well, in England, if you can Google this, there's a word called WANKER. Eric Bolin has a whole new way to pronounce it.
You sure you want to debate Donald Trump? I mean, there are stages littered with political careers everywhere in the aftermath of people wanting to debate Donald Trump. The guy's a master debater.
International news now at Fox. I do not know if the person you're about to see is a foreign correspondent, but I can tell you one thing. They clearly are, well, I'll be totally honest with you, clueless on geography, like Clueless. Because as far as, well, have a listen.
Trump warns that the far left is a far greater threat to America than any foreign adversary. I'll tell you why we agree. That's it.
I suppose the job of a politician is to say dumb, silly stuff and hope that somebody on cable news will then echo chamber it. And in these days, it's obviously then picked up by social media. Speaker Johnson, who has enough problems of his own, is now going along with this Trump narrative because you know what's going to happen. It's a bit like the wall. They're going to round up at 11 million people and boot them out of America. 11 million. And Speaker Johnson is all on board.
Speaker, lastly, the President of the United States, the former president who wants to be the next president, said one of his plans is, he talked to Time Magazine, is to round up the 11 to 15 million illegals and then go through them and find out who belongs here and who doesn't. Would you support that?
Absolutely, and President Trump and I have talked about this at length, but the challenge we'll have is finding them, Brian. As you know, they've been spread out everywhere. DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, and Mayorkas, the reason we impeached him is because he's an abject failure and they're not keeping track of where these people are. So we will have the greatest challenge of our generation to try to find them, to round them up first. And that's a very serious problem.
Well, we know where the hotels are. We could point you there. We could help in New York City.
There's that.
16 million number that you said under Biden.
Somebody who thoroughly is enjoying the Trump in court fiasco and has treated himself to a new suit is George Conway.
Was that the continued cross-examination of Stormy Daniels was a complete disaster and a fiasco for the defense. I mean,
because it was a rabbit hole they didn't need to go down.
It just was it just went on, and they didn't have anything on her. And you got to confine crosses to basically a few short lines of stuff that's good. They didn't do that. I think what happened was they had a day off, and Necklace is a very good lawyer by reputation. And you can tell just by the way she conducted herself. She knows how to cross-examine a witness and knows how to ask questions. But her client is a narcissistic sociopath, and who is obsessed with proving the lie that he didn't have anything to do with Stormy Daniels.
There is something, as far as I see it, that's quite interesting about this case, because it always will come down to how the jurors see it. George Conway isn't doing what Trump is doing. Trump is doing all of this projection, like, can he have time off to go to Barron's graduation, asking the judge for a mistrial and that his gag order should be released. He's going to testify. It's all rubbish because it comes down to the jury. And interestingly enough, George Conway has a little bit of an insider for us here.
And so they went off on this whole tangent on basically the defense's position should be it doesn't really matter whether that happened or not, because even if it was extortion money, even if it was extortion money, it still could be a crime. But trying to prove something that didn't happen it's just counterproductive. And it just got to the point of ridiculousness where she's asking Stormy about basically a map of South Lake Tahoe, Nevada, to figure out whether or not she was walking in her heels 1 block or 2, where she took a cab. It was just garbage. And it was embarrassing, and to the point where, if you control the witness, by keeping your cross simple and short, you can control the witness. But the longer you go, the more the witness can pop off at you. And this woman is way smarter than Necklace's client, and she got some really good. I thought I saw jurors at some point trying to do what I was trying to do, which was suppress laughter at some of the shots that Stormy got into the record.